good afternoon. Welcome to this live stream that is brought to you by Ipmat by LPT. Guys, what we are doing with these series is that we are picking up concepts from across the sections, and in these series we discuss those concepts so you have a better clarity. And if you have got a better clarity, that will help you to understand how do you deal with the rules of these concepts and how these rules will be then used in order to solve the question. So what I have for you now is ki we are going to discuss the final two parts of speech as far as the grammar portion is concerned. So we are done with subject verb agreement, we are done with parallelism and modifiers. As far as parts of speech was concerned, so we are done with nouns and pronouns, adjectives, verbs and adverbs. Today what I have for you is we are going to deal with prepositions and conjunctions. Now prepositions and conjunctions are considered as a closed category in a grammar, which means to say that you don't add these parts of speech in a random manner in any sort of grammar that you can talk about, right? So when you talk about this closed category, we are basically looking at those parts of speech which have a fixed number in terms of preposition also and in terms of conjunctions also. You don't really have to go too much into the depth of preposition and conjunction. The most important aspect is that you should have an idea as to what prepositions are, what conjunctions are, and then when we discuss the rules of both of these parts of speech, then it is all about how do you put those rules into execution and how do you better prepare yourself to solve the questions that is based on that. So let us get started and start dealing with prepositions and conjunctions. Right, so let's talk about what prepositions are, although I understand you do have some idea as to what prepositions basically are. So when you talk about prepositions per se, right, so it says a preposition is a word placed before a noun or a pronoun to show its relation to another word in a sentence. So when you talk about prepositions, they are actually a word that is placed before a noun or a pronoun. It can be noun also, it can be pronoun also, to show its relation to another word in the sentence. It usually indicates direction, place, time, cause, manner, instrument, possession or comparison. You really don't have to go too much into the depth here. Just understand, as long as you are able to understand the prepositions and identify them, you are good to go with the questions. Now think of a preposition as a linking word. So when you talk about what prepositions basically are, we are saying that it is actually a linking word between a noun or a pronoun. So basically when you talk about prepositions, they are the linking words for nouns and pronouns and the rest of the sentence. To quote a very simple example, because I'm already sure that you understand what prepositions are, even if you don't, the little understanding of how these concepts are related will enable you to identify what these words are. So basically when you take a simple example like the book is on the table, look at this word which is on. So it shows what? It shows place. So you have a category of prepositions. Second one, it says she arrived at 5 p.m. So look at this word that is at. So it shows what? It shows time. So that is the concept here. In the third one, it says he jumped into the pool. So you have this word which is called into. It shows what? It shows direction. Then you say the gift is for you. So for also becomes a preposition. It shows purpose. And last but not the least, you say the picture was painted by him. So when you say by him, this signifies agent. So you really don't have to classify prepositions as such, but just understand when you are dealing with sentences of grammar, you should be able to identify the individual words into their parts of speech. We will have a session as to how to identify the words into parts of speech, but just understand because prepositions are a closed category, so it's not very difficult to identify what these prepositions basically are. Now, what should you remember about the key points about preposition is that a preposition is always followed by a noun or a pronoun called its object, right? So, when you say she sat on the chair, you have this preposition on and then you have this noun which is chair, and you cannot, of course, if you don't have an object, that does not make sense. So when you say she sat on, this is an incomplete or ungrammatical idea. So remember, a preposition is always followed by a noun or a pronoun which acts as its object. Second one, prepositions are not usually placed at the end in formal English. Generally, when it comes down to formal English, we don't place prepositions at the end. But if you look at the contemporary usage of preposition, it is sometimes acceptable to put it at the end of the sentence. So, for example, when you say, this is the house in which he lives, this is absolutely fine because you have a preposition in here. But in the informal format, you can also say, this is the house he lives in. So if you are dealing with standard usages of English language, I would advise you that please stick with the formal rule, which is preposition is not generally placed at the end of the sentence. So you should just keep this in mind. And the third thing is, some words can act as prepositions and adverbs depending on usage. I have told you in my previous lectures also that when you talk about identifying a word into particular category or parts of speech, it is all about the function it performs in the sentence. So if you look at the first one, it says she looked up the stairs. So you have this up mentioned here, so you have a preposition here. But when you say she looked up, this up is answering to the verb which is look, so this acts as a adverb. So just keep in mind that you may have some common words that act as preposition, and the same word can also act as an adverb. Common preposition phrases that we actually use, so we say at night, at home, at work, on time, on the bus, on Monday, in the morning, in the car, in January, by chance, by mistake, by hand. See, basically when it comes down to preposition, I tell students that there are not many rules that you have to really mug up, but a basic understanding of how the position of preposition is important in the sentence, that will enable you to choose the right kind of preposition with respect to the right kind of sentence. Now, in short, prepositions are small but powerful words that glue sentences together. Okay, so it acts as a glue and it gives them a clarity in terms of how these words are basically used. We are not delving into the rules of preposition as of now because I believe that's not the agenda for this class. It is just to make you sure that you understand what prepositions are and how it is different from conjunctions. So let's now move on to conjunctions. Again, a closed category, so you have fixed number of conjunctions in the English language. Let us understand what these conjunctions are and how we are supposed to understand them. So it says, let's understand in a clear and structured way. Now, what are conjunctions? Conjunctions are connecting words, or you call them as joining words, right? The easiest interpretation I can tell you when it comes down to conjunction is that conjunction are joining words, and what do they join? They join words, they join phrases, and they join clauses together, all right, or together to make sentences smoother and more meaningful. Just remember, conjunctions are joining words, they join phrases, they join clauses, or they join sentences. Think of them as bridges in the language. So when you talk about conjunctions per se, they are acting as a bridges in the language. So they basically connect or they basically join. Types of conjunctions is important, although you really don't have to classify conjunctions as such, but you should know what conjunction belongs to what category. So the most common types that you have is known as coordinating conjunctions. What are coordinating conjunctions? It's that they join words, phrases or clauses of equal importance. We will look into what do we mean by equal importance, but just for now, just understand these coordinating conjunctions are the words that join words or phrases or clauses of equal importance, right? Then of course you have got subordinating conjunction, that is one more major type. They connect dependent subordinate clause with an independent clause. You don't really have to understand what exactly is subordinate, what exactly is independent, but yes, your understanding in terms of what conjunctions are is sufficient so that you are able to solve the question. So let's look at it in terms of how do we look at the example. So it says they show relationships like time, reason, condition or contrast. And the last one and frequently used type of conjunction category is known as correlative conjunctions. These are easiest to understand because they always work in pairs. So I will be telling you what are these correlative conjunctions are, and I am sure you will be able to recall it in a very easy manner. Now let's have a look at the example of these. So when you talk about coordinating conjunction, the first category, easy way to remember is fanboy. So you have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Now they indicate something very particular. So for shows reason. For example, I said I stayed home for it was raining. And shows addition. So you say she sings and dances. Nor shows negative condition. So he does not smoke nor does he drink, but shows contrast. Again, very important because this is one of the most used conjunctions. So but shows contrast. For example, you say I like tea but not coffee, or shows choice. Do you want tea or coffee? So when you want to have a choice between the two things, then you make use of or. Yet shows contrast. She was tired yet kept working. So there is an opposition coming up, there is a contrast coming up, and then you have so, which shows result. It was late so we left. So just remember this fanboys and you will be able to understand what are these coordinating conjunctions. Let's move on to the next type, which is subordinating conjunctions. Guys, understand one thing, it's not about that you have to identify every conjunction into its respective category. As long as you know how these conjunctions are used in a sentence with respect to the rule that is in place, I think you will be good to go for solving the questions and to handle them. So subordinate conjunctions is like after, before, until, while, and when. So for example, you say I will call you after I reach home. Then you have cause and reason. So it says because, since, and as. So you say she was happy because she won the prize. So again, a conjunction being used here. Condition, for the condition we make use of if and unless. So you say you won't pass unless you study. So you have put a condition here. So use there unless, and the last one is contrast. So you have although, though, and whereas. So you simply say although it rained, we played outside. So there is a contrast coming up. But shows you contrast, yet shows you contrast, though shows you contrast, although shows you contrast, nevertheless shows you contrast. So as long as you identify the conjunctions and you couple it with the rules of conjunction, the correct usage of conjunctions, I think you are good to go. Let's move further. Correlative conjunctions are used in pairs, and I'm sure you already know much of these. So you have either or used in a sentence. So if you have either here, then it should be followed by or. Then you have neither nor, which is again a correlative conjunction. Both is followed by and. Not only is followed by but also, and whether is followed by or. So these are known as correlative conjunctions because they work in pair. Simply understand, if it is a pair, then it belongs to the correlative conjunction, although nobody is going to ask you as to what are the categories of these conjunctions are, as long as you know how either or is used, how neither nor is used, and how these other conjunctions are used. So if you look at the example, you simply say you can have either tea or coffee. He is neither rich nor famous. She is both intelligent and hardworking. He is not only kind but also generous. I don't know whether he is joking or serious. So just understand that there are pairs of conjunction that you have to pay attention to and you are good to go. Let's move further. Why conjunctions are important, as to why do you need them in the sentence. First, they make writing flow naturally. So this is one of the ways as to why do you use conjunction. Then they help show relationship between ideas, cause, contrast, time, etc. So if you don't use conjunctions per se, chances are that the sentences would not have that kind of clarity that we are looking forward to. Without them, language would sound broken. For example, I was hungry, I ate food. So of course it makes sense, but when you put it with the right conjunction, it has an impact. So it says, with conjunction, I ate food because I was hungry. So this gives you a reason, and that is how you form your sentences. Now, quick tip as far as these three categories of conjunction is concerned. So you have coordinating, you have subordinating, you have correlative. Just remember, if it is coordinating, you join equals. Subordinate, make one depend on other, and if it is correlative, they always come in pairs. One thing that you should be very clear about is that nobody is going to ask you what are the categories of these conjunctions, as long as you know how these conjunctions are used in the sentence, and you can learn to handle the rules as well as the questions for practice. Right, so with this we come to the end of our session, guys. So this was a basic understanding of prepositions and conjunctions. Just make sure that even if you don't understand the categories of these two concepts, which is prepositions and conjunctions, you know that when you have a sentence, you are able to identify where is the preposition in the sentence, where is the conjunction in the sentence. In the forthcoming sessions, we will be dealing with the rules of parts of speech. Plus, we will also be practicing questions. So just make sure that when you talk about these parts of speech from noun to conjunction, that is clear to you as long as you are able to identify the words in the sentence. And then we will deal with the rules and the questions. So enable you to understand how these questions in the competitive examinations are handled and how they are supposed to be tackled. So that's it from my side. Keep working hard, keep studying hard, and I'm sure that you will secure a very good result with respect to your Ipmat preparation for 2026. Thank you guys. Bye-bye. Have a good day.